Hey guys, JB here from Alpha Wolf Consulting. Alright, coming to you today with another episode of Understanding Thyself. So this episode is Understanding Self-Value or Self-Worth. So we've already explored and looked at understanding self-validation, which helps us build and determine what we want to know is true and what we know as being, subjective or objective truth from others, right? And then we looked into self-belief, which is all about how do we create those negative pathways, not negative, but the positive pathways in our subconscious mind. Like, how do we reinforce those positive narratives? And sort of, how do we observe those negative narratives and minimize and counteract them? So it's very important for us to understand that these are just layers that we put upon ourselves, because to be your authentic self isn't difficult, but to understand yourself, okay, and all aspects of you is a very, very complex thing. And to try and tackle it as one whole sort of whole approach, right? If you're trying to build self-validation, self-belief, self-confidence and self-worth simultaneously, it's quite difficult because we need to learn the layers, each of the individual layers, and build upon them and remember back to those, learnings or teachings or that knowledge when we come across challenges and obstacles in the future. So the third sort of aspect of it is self-confidence. And when we understand that, well, confidence is just certainty, so self-confidence would be self-certainty. So if we think about it like this, self-validation is just like determination of truth, or like you pick what is real, what is true, what is you. Okay? Self-belief is all about reprogramming narratives, negative narratives, and re-implementing positive new narratives or positive beliefs, right? And then the understanding of self-confidence is just understanding that if I have, proof or evidence that doing the work will get the result, I increase my certainty, because we're not looking for the certainty of the results or the environment, but we're looking for the certainty of how am I going to act in it, the certainty of if I do the work, the results will come. So everyone knows if you diet and exercise, you lose weight. Like, it's not a matter of ifs, buts, or maybes. It's just how much do you do. So now that we've got that bit of a frame, okay, understanding self-worth is just understanding self-worth is realized value. Okay, so when we're thinking about this, okay, for me to build self-worth in myself, all I have to do is realize the value I hold and the value I've brought to the table in previous experiences. So to really do this, okay, to build self-confidence, we need to take, self-certainty through any situation. So we look back to similar situations and how did it go? We're still alive, so evidently all situations ended well, because if they ended negatively, we'd be dead. So, understanding this just allows us to really start to grasp the framework of, well, how do we build that self-value? And the easiest way is just to think back to all your past experiences, regardless of what it was, and really lock in on, did you gain understanding in that topic? Did you become more confident and capable? Did you get results? Like, it doesn't matter if you got results instantaneously, like, that's not the point. If it took you 2 years to figure something out and then start getting results, like, it doesn't matter. There's no time frame, there's no scale of better or worse, because everyone is individualistically scaling themselves. So it's irrelevant, all this stuff, and that's where self-worth problems come from, is we compare ourselves too much to others. So what this leads us to do is this will lead us to observe the observable workload. So we think that they're doing more with less, but the truth is they're just doing more that's unseen. So that's sort of the trick and the lie in society, is everyone will tell you that they can get you to the top of the results in 30 days. And while some people can, the majority of them, you know what I mean? They're half observing the workload required and then making a preconceived assumption based on that, like with missing or bad information. That's why so many people are out there scamming people with, using manipulation and fear to control their clientele rather than inspiring them to do better. So to understand this is just to understand that if I want true self-worth or true belief, it's got to be like based in authenticity, but it's also got to be based in like my classification of the results. So it doesn't matter what other people think. If other people think, for example, making $10,000 a week in sales is an achievement, like if I take that on and that becomes my metric of achievement, if I don't feel good about having to make 10,000 every week, it's going to become effort and work. So just understanding, we have to frame what we are trying to accomplish. So we have to create the path of accomplishment based upon what we actually want and care about, but then we have to make the measurements reflective of what we actually care about. So, for example, if you don't care about money, like me, money is never the metric. To make money the metric takes away everything that's authentic. Do you sort of understand? Like, whatever your metric is, and to understand this is that money is just a resource we have created to facilitate trade and commerce. So like, inherently money isn't or hasn't been anything in our society. It's only since it was realised as a position of power and control and a tool of, controlling masses and populations that they sort of introduced it. Before that, it was barter system. That's pretty much how we did everything, was we either bartered or the community came together, and we would, the hunters would gather the gatherers would go out and get berries and roots and all the different stuff like that. And it was a collective approach. So you got to understand, in our hardwire, in our DNA, is connection and collectivity. So we want to be a part of a group because it gives us, feelings of security, feelings of belonging, feelings of, like purpose. Because all of our purpose is external to ourselves. No matter what happens, unless you're, like a Tibetan or a yogic monk that sits there and meditates for 20 years of your life every day for 18 hours a day. Like, they're limiting their exposure of the experience of life to whatever is within their own experience. So like, unless you're doing that and you're only hyper focused on your experience, we're all hyper focused on our external experience and the people around us. And it's not to say one is better than the other. Like, it's all pointless. So it doesn't matter what you choose, but what you choose will give meaning to your life. So if you choose to make it that, your metric of success is connection, is expanding your network. You know, if that's your sort of one of the goals that you have, it will feel easy to and exciting to expand your network. If that is not a part of your goal and you force yourself to do it, it will feel unnatural and ungainly because you're forcing yourself to do something that you don't want to do. So understand that ease and difficulty is just a sign or reflection of if I really want this or if I don't. And you know, people can tell you that they really want it and that it's the most difficult thing in the world to attain, but they're lying to you. Because what you want is effortless to get. Like, if you absolutely love walking, for you going on a 5 kilometer walk isn't work. It's a light stroll. Like, it's the frame of mind. So now we can live our life having this determined unconsciously, or we can determine it consciously. So how this looks in our self-worth is if we allow our self-worth to be determined by our external environment and not by our conscious thought, what will happen is, you know, if everyone in my environment says I'm amazing and great, I feel amazing and great. Okay? If people attack me because they're insecure, I will feel insecure because I'm being attacked. Now this is the downside to, you know, getting your sort of, by allowing yourself to be molded and manipulated by those around you. And it's not that they do it in a negative way, but we all do it. So like if you're taking actions that I don't think are safe or, you know, responsible or something to do, you know, something you should be doing, well, I'm going to try and influence you and dissuade you from taking that action and influence you with new actions and new beliefs. So we just got to understand it's a way that we connect with others, but we should understand that like we're all individuals, so I can only focus on me and you can only focus on you. If you try and focus on me, what's right for you might not be right for me. So the problem with this is because we haven't identified this in society, there are many people who are trying to perfect this approach of changing other people, of influencing and indoctrinating and controlling them. Because if I want to feel secure in life, I need to have control. So if I want to feel secure in my external environment, I have to control my external environment. And that's the problem when we hyper-focus into the external environment. We start to try and mold and shape it, but we also try and shape and mold ourselves into who we think the environment wants us to be. Which, the downside to that is we lose a lot of our natural power and ability. For example, if you enjoy talking to people, right, and you know, having in-depth conversations and educational conversations, and people around you tell you that they, you know, that you shouldn't do that because you're telling them, you know, what to do and how to do and how to think. Like, for you to live by their standard, where everyone covers information and only shares useless and irrelevant information between each, like, what is the point of living that way? Like, why would you change your experience of enjoyment just so that you can fit in observably to those around you? So like we all gotta realise that like whatever my version or your version of a dream life is, to the person next to you it doesn't mean shit. And that's okay. It doesn't have to. That's where your self-worth comes from, is a realisation that it's all irrelevant. So like if I'm trying to do something that people say is impossible, it doesn't really matter what they think of as being possible or not, Like, it matters on what am I willing to do? What are you willing to do? You know, like, are you able to do it? So, like, that's the thing, and that's the problem, especially in business. In business, everyone is caught up competing with each other, and the ones who succeed massively realize that it doesn't matter what other people do, it only matters what you do, because if you're so focused on following others, you can't surpass others, because to surpass others, you're now in the unknown. Following others is just following the known. Like, it's sort of like, you know, if you're lost out in the middle of the desert, right, or the wilderness, and you only stay on, uh, let's say a dirt road, because that's the highest form that you can see of, civilization. So rather than, exploring out and trying to find out, is this the right direction for me? Is this getting me to my version of stability and safety and security? You're just saying, well, this is the only path. It's a wilderness out there, but you haven't actually looked. And that's what a lot of people do in life, is they take these beliefs about how life should be lived, and they take these beliefs about, what is the right path in life, what is the wrong path, what should I do, and they create this life based on the path that others have laid out, that is not their own path, that isn't anything, and they limit their experience to that and call that the fulfillment of life. Understand this: as soon as we try to conceptualize what life is and the meaning of life, we have lost it, because we have trapped it in a box of our understanding. And we understand a minuscule about reality. We don't even understand 1% of what constitutes of reality. Anyone who tells you that they understand what it is, in terms of, like, they know everything in the universe, they know every type of planet and all of this, they're full of shit, because they haven't seen what they haven't seen. And as science proves day in, day out, science is just what we've seen. All that is unseen is still there. So the way I like to think of it is, science is like having a torch in a blacked out warehouse where it's completely dark. Yeah, we can see a lot, but we don't see everything. For us to see and categorize and catalog every aspect of that warehouse, including, its inventory, we would need to go through with that spotlight and put it on everything in a systematic approach, and then recheck it. So, with our understanding of current science as it is, we're maybe one or two steps into the warehouse and we've seen a couple of boxes. Like, this is the important thing, because we base our conception of what is right, what is real, what is reality, what is limitation, what is fear, what is pain, based off these arbitrary truths that society says is the truth, which isn't the case. Because for you to know truth means you must know everything in that aspect. So, like, if you want to know the truth of sales, you have to know every aspect, every thought, every piece of content that has ever been created on sales, going back as far as it does. And you have to simultaneously be able to conceptualize the vastness of that information, go through it, spot trends and, patterns and correlating data. Like, you have to do this simultaneously all the time. So what what we truly do with our understanding is we get to a level to where we're able to say with reasonable doubt, like with reasonable doubt that like we're not wrong, that this should be the path, or this is what is right, that we have observed and that others have observed. And that's very, very different to saying this is the right way. And that's the problem, is because we never truly know what the right way is. Because two people can try and achieve the same goal with completely opposite approaches, and they can get the exact same results in a varying of time frames. So the time difference between the results might be 12 months, might be 2 years, might be 10 years, might be, 20 days, might be a month, might be a week, might be a day. Like, you don't know exactly, because it doesn't always have to work that way in the context of, like, if there's not one path to the goal, which life is, there is no one path to living life. The point of life is a million paths. But if there is not one and one only path, like so many in life say, then that means all paths are right, they just have different journeys. And this is very important to understand,